Well, welcome, Aimee, to the Girlfriend Doctor Show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Anna. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I am just finished reading your book, Body Belief. Body Belief. And I just loved it. I know you also have written the egg quality diet, and I'll talk about that too. But I just love everything you've put into this, the thought, the energy, and the science. And what made you write this book, Aimee?
So I wrote a book before that. Well, I've written 2 books prior to that. But my second book called Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, and it's all about helping women optimize their fertility, even into their 40s. And prior, my backstory is I was a research scientist. I was a medical school dropout and then did research and then went into study Chinese medicine. But I've always carried that research element with me. And so, you've written books, we really bring forth a lot of integrity and in all the research and diving into the research behind fertility and why fertility challenges were on the rise and really trying to understand that. I started to see this common thread that there was a lot of women I was suspecting, and I would see that, as a clinician as well, that there was a lot of women dealing with fertility challenges that actually were dealing with undiagnosed or mismanaged autoimmune conditions. And even endometriosis, we know it's an inflammatory condition, but as I always say clinically, and perhaps you've seen this as well, when I treat it like an autoimmune condition, it tends to get better pretty quickly. And so all of that kind of came out of the writing of Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. And I have a formula in there and good advice in there, but it continued my research into this autoimmune realm because another thing I was seeing in my practice was I was seeing a lot of women with recurrent pregnancy loss, and that has a strong autoimmune / inflammatory tie. And so it kind of became this obsession of mine where I was like, I want to try to figure this piece out. And in Chinese medicine, we don't have something like autoimmunity. We would say something like it's, the body's attacking itself. Obviously, we know that from a scientific perspective, but Chinese medicine always also wants to look at it from this emotional perspective. And so, like, where are we attacking ourselves, not just on that physical or cellular level, but on that emotional level? And how are we aligned with ourselves? How are we supporting ourselves? And I guess because I had the clinical experience too, I was really able to draw upon that, and coupled with diving into the research and the science to see that if we really want to heal autoimmunity and or inflammatory conditions, it's this 3-pillar approach. It's not just like I say in the beginning of the book, I could tell you what to eat and when to sleep and how to meditate, but unless you actually believe and you get aligned with yourself, I don't know that any of my recommendations will stick and actually make all the difference you deserve them to make.
Well, I love that. And I think the first thing I want to just clarify autoimmune, what autoimmune means. And the word itself, it means like your body is, essentially attacking its own immune system, right?
Mm-hmm. Hostility, deep hostility. Yes.
And repressed emotion or deep grief and sadness, and it's anger, right? It's angry. Yeah. And I like that you said that, deep hostility and anger at yourself for an emotional aspect to autoimmune disease. So I just want to tell my audience, just hang in here. You're like, oh no, my autoimmune disease isn't created by my thoughts. I'm not saying that at all. There's so many factors here, but what is incapacitating your body from fighting off the offenses and healing itself? And how do we now empower your body to absorb and respond to the healing modalities that you're doing? And I think there's so much to this. And I speak from my own personal journey, Aimee. When I had a traumatic accident in my own family, I went from, a fertile, fun, 39-year-old to infertile, early menopause, and depressed with PTSD under the surface. And it drove my immune system, my adrenals down. And believe me, I was grieving and I was angry at myself and I was hurting in so many ways that I could see, even though like at that time, they're like, oh, that stress isn't going to cause your infertility. Stress isn't going to cause early menopause. I'm here to say that absolutely it will. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like no one's to blame. And I don't think, even specific situations are to blame. But I think the biggest thing that stress or trauma does to the body is it takes away that sense of safety. And then it puts us in that that chronic fight or flight. And, you know, I always say, like, every day, every moment, right, we have the choice to go down, you know, the fight or flight pathway or the rest, relax, reproduce pathway. And that's what's happening. And then the immune system gets triggered, the body gets triggered, this deep hostility, and then this inflammatory process takes over, which it doesn't create a sense of safety in the body. And so from like what you experience and like what I see clinically with so many of my clients is we're trying to return them back to that sense of safety. And that safety is of course nutritional, right? Giving our bodies everything it needs. Of course it's physical, like listening to our bodies, resting, moving at the right pace for our bodies. But it is that deep emotional piece as well, like PEACE and, you know, peace, that we're coming back and creating that sense of homeostasis and hostility. And that does regulate the immune system. I mean, you can see it clinically, you can see it in lab works, you can see it in symptoms. And like you worked through it, I see that clinically all the time.
Yeah. And I say it comes down to those three things as to summarize: peace, presence, and pace. Peace, presence, and pace.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Feeling really at home in your body. In your book, and you write renew about renew. Renew means to start the process of shifting your beliefs about your body, your health, and how you function in the world from where you are now to a refreshed version of you. Renewed beliefs are not necessarily different from the beliefs you currently have. They may simply be more positive, a more positive variation of them. Yeah. And I love this concept, right? Like this concept of shift.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much, you know, the term is toxic positivity out there, right? Where this idea that we just are shoving these positive beliefs or these affirmations down our throat. And I don't know that renders all the benefits that we would like them to. I see clinically again and feel that the best approach is this shift from, you know, say not all the way from black to white in 1 second, right? But from black to a little less black to gray to a little less gray to whiter. And so it's about finding the beliefs that you have, the core beliefs, and then starting to question them and then saying, how could I say that better? How could I be a little more gentle? How could I be a little more compassionate? How can I shift that to a better feeling thought? And then from there, seeing, you know, your beliefs really do dictate your behavior dictates your health. And so it's all related. And if you go in with a belief of, you know, like say for you, where that trauma took over your life and you stayed in that grief and you stayed in that space of things could never change, they'll never get better. I don't know that the health would have shifted, right? You know, it was like, instead for you, it was a catalyst to really see how trauma impacts things and then share that with the world, which is beautiful. But it's that space where we get to see the belief and then, okay, so it could go this direction, or I could go this direction with it, and I can slightly, you know, shift it over rather than being told you have to think positive all the time. It's the only way you're going to heal. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. And I heard Deepak Chopra say once that he said, if someone tells you you have to be happy all the time, he's like, don't listen to them and don't ever talk to them again. He's like, because that's not it. You know, it's like the not so good moments in our life are there to, I think, educate and inspire and shift us as well. And so it's kind of, you know, using those moments as momentum and what direction do you want to go next?
So give me some examples from your practice, your work, and like how the beliefs affected an autoimmunity and why it, you know, like why do we have a choice, like which autoimmune disease we get or what we're susceptible to? I mean, what is...
Well, I think there's genetics in there as well, right? I think there's predispositions for certain, and I think some just have greater predispositions than others. And what I'll see clinically, though, a lot is, you know, the I'm too old story, or this is as good as it gets. Like, I'm getting older, so don't things decline? Aren't they just supposed to get worse? And getting them to really, you know, a client to tune in to, okay, where did that come from? And that typically came from someone we were raised by or culture, you know, that we were exposed to, but starting to question, but look at, there's other people who have reversed heart disease or have healed from cancer or have gotten healthier in their 30s and 40s than they were in their 20s, and starting to shift and question. And so I'll usually go from like that, I'm too old, there's no hope, to, well, other people did get healthier as they got older. So it's almost starting to question, because the belief becomes the truth, right? But the belief is just a thought. Then we seek the social proof to support that thought. So it's about opening up and expanding to see other social proofs. There are other people that got older and it didn't just get worse, they got better. So I could too. And I suppose, like the second part of your question, how does that tie into autoimmunity? I think there are multiple factors that are going on, whether it's genetics, it's gut health, it's, predispositions, it's environmental toxins. The thoughts are in there as well, right? They're another variable. But what those hostile thoughts will do is create that sense of, hostility in the body, creating that inflammatory cascade and putting you in that fight or flight that does not set you up for thriving. It just sets you up for surviving, and barely. And so as we shift the thoughts, we'll see the neurochemistry will shift. Like legit, our thoughts do create neurophysiological reactions in our body. And so as we start to shift those, say the nervous system starts to calm, then also we start to say, I do feel better when I sleep 7 to 8 hours. I do feel better when I move a little bit more, right? There's a consciousness that comes with that. And then we begin to shift and choose behaviors that are more supportive to this new belief system. Oh, it's not all lost, right? I can get, be in my late 40s and actually feel better than I did in my late 30s. Like there is a possibility there. And that's like, then you see this trend, and you'll see, Hashimoto's is a great example of like where we're tracking thyroid antibodies. You'll see thyroid antibodies come down. You see the inflammation calm. You also see gut health improve, and you see absorption and nutrient deficiencies go away. And you just see the body saying, like, the way I see it is I just see the body saying, like, I feel safe again. I feel like I have enough. I feel like I don't just have to survive. I can actually move into thriving. And in my world, mainly what I treat is helping women get pregnant. Like that thriving is a piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
And before, when we were talking before we went live, you were saying like the ovarian health is such a piece to the aging puzzle. And that's very much how I see it as well, even clinically, that fertility is a luxury, right? It's like a menstruation and the ability to have children. It is an inherent right that I hope all women have. And if they want to utilize it, that they get to. But when the body doesn't feel safe, it's the first thing it shuts down and just says, I don't have enough, right? I don't have enough to make, I can't barely survive here. How am I going to make a human? And so we're just slowly shifting them out of that like terrorized state, that hostile state, to like, oh, I have a little, okay, I can actually start to see this. Like, and it's really what you see too is like this blossoming, you just see this shifting and transformation. It's beautiful.
I love it. I like the word blossoming, awakening, opening, transformative, phoenix rising. These are good words, especially for us to relate to. And science now is showing more than ever that the healthy ovarian function, the longer we can keep it, the healthier our second spring of our life is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's really important. Like I recognized easily from reversing early menopause at 39 to again at 48 to finally going through menopause at 56 years old. You guys, that's like, that is at the
rock star status, guys.
at the, less than 5% of us go through menopause this late. And so I think that's a really important piece to understand, that we're keeping and maintaining healthy ovarian function, and it starts early. So the same thing, like where I love, Aimee, your work is that it goes into this body of beliefs. It goes into ovarian restoration and really honoring like the ovarian function and revitalizing it with your methods. In chapter 4 of your book, you say reconnecting to yourself is the most important pillar of the body belief plan. And give us like, how do we reconnect ourselves? Because you guys, you don't have to be wanting to be pregnant to do this. You don't have to, any age of us. And this is something like I am going to sharing with my kids for, their young age, young bodies. And again, preventive wellness is this resource, because I want them to understand that how toxic our thoughts can be, and self-judgment, self-criticism, and why it's important, like to create a body that you feel safe in, and that you can
feel like a partnership with, right? And to your point too, of this isn't just for women trying to make babies. I always say fertility is an extension of health. It's kind of like my joke in a sense of, you don't need to want a baby to do this work, right? This is really about rejuvenation and restoration and renewing. The reconnecting piece, which is the first pillar of the body belief protocol, is, I do think, the most important piece, because what I see clinically is most people come to me and they're completely disconnected from themselves, all the way down to, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Or do you have your coffee on an empty stomach? At what point do you eat your breakfast or your lunch? How do you feel after that? Instead, it's more like, oh, I just feel exhausted all day. I have headaches. I don't remember the last time I pooped, or I have loose bowel movements every day. I have these bags under my eyes, like my hair is falling out, right? It's just all these like varying symptoms, and not really understanding that perhaps if you ate breakfast in the morning, then you might actually have less anxiety or fatigue as the day progressed, or less headaches, and getting them to start to connect the dots, but then also connecting the dots of what are the thoughts. They say that we have 50,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are the same. So there's one or two recurring themes basically all day long. And what is that theme for you? And so I really work on helping people identify that theme, and then starting to see, like I say this all the time, are you living from a place of like leading with fear or leading with faith, right? And an excitement. And so when we start to tune into those beliefs, it's like, oh my goodness, I realize everything is like this shortage mentality. Like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not there on time. It's like, I've never give myself enough time, and I don't go, I move too fast, or, blah, blah, blah. It's like this piece where it's always this race, versus, am I right here, right now? Like, I just ate that meal. How did I feel after that? And I have this headache. Is it because of that conversation I had yesterday with my partner or my boss? And what are we carrying versus letting go of? And just connecting the dots, like really just sitting kind of in your space and looking all around at all the areas of your life and seeing how they connect the dots, but also the role you're playing in those too. And that honest piece, I feel such a huge part of the path to health and vitality is being really honest with ourselves. And that only comes from living with ourselves and being truly connected and being a partner, right? We're a team, like the inner and the outer, this is a team. And so coming back home to that and really not seeing it as separate.
Yeah, I love that. I say, get the nasty bitch off your shoulder and work with your best coach, right? Your favorite coach.
Yeah.
Very positive. So I love that it keeps coming into, like I keep saying, the peace, pace, presence. If you're not feeling peace, check in, right? What's your pace? Are you nourished? Are you fed? And being really present. And I think that's a really great mantra to adapt. Walk us through, like, how do you help someone who's coming in with autoimmune disease? And we see, like, let's just talk about some autoimmune diseases: MS, Hashimoto's, Raynaud's,
psoriatic arthritis,
eczema,
psoriasis, RA, right? Crohn's, colitis. I think Hashimoto's. And so how do I help someone when they come in? I feel like half the people I work with have no idea that they maybe even have an autoimmune, right? Especially my Hashimoto's patients. Most women are diagnosed with hypothyroidism. If the thyroid starts to crash, though, a lot of them are just kind of bouncing around and no one's checked their thyroid antibodies. So I tend to be the one who helps them discover that. And I also tend to be the one to get them to an endocrinologist, where we'll see a positive ANA, or we'll see other inflammatory markers. So as a Chinese medicine doctor, right, it's different than Western medicine. They come in and I'm a detective. I just piece apart all of their symptoms, everything from how they're sleeping to how they're pooping to their sex drive to their skin, their hair, their nails, and to their emotional state, of course. And with that, I get to come up with this picture, and now, of course, I have all sorts of education and functional medicine, and I have nutrition and all these things. So I can piece together this plan where I'm also looking at, like, what we would say now is gut health. Chinese medicine, we just kind of talk about the spleen and the stomach. But digestion is a huge piece to health and vitality in Chinese medicine. And so how is their body and the way we look at it, I love, it's like not just absorbing nutrition, but how are you absorbing your world, right? How are you absorbing and interacting with your world? And you really get to see this picture. And a lot of times with autoimmunity, there's always this digestive component. And then there's, with that, typically, you know, what I think we would call, from like more of a medicine perspective, nutrient deficiencies, you know, so you can see they're inherently depleted. They are not absorbing their nutrition. They're not absorbing their world very well. And then there's this emotional piece of there's some kind of latent, whether it's grief, whether it's anger, whether it's resentment. And it could all just be like self, you know, towards self. It doesn't mean that there was, and trauma is whatever trauma was for you guys. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be some big, bad, dark thing. It's like, however we kind of internalize and move forward in our world. And so for me, then I'm working on all those, like I'm really restoring the pillar of digestion. That's so important to me, to get to them, to start to absorb. And then that pillar of like their relationships. Cause I often say, like, how much are you giving away? You know, that's kind of that digestion, relationship piece as well, where are you in the world and just giving all of you? Do you save anything for yourself? You know, and most people really, that hits them and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I am at all things to all people. And I don't show up for myself. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the resources. And so it's about peeling that back. But in that, to tie it back to the autoimmune, you will see, you almost see either the stages being set for autoimmunity to be triggered, or it's low lying. I mean, I think the stat is that by the age of 40, I think it's 1 in 8 women will have an autoimmune disease in the United States. And another interesting statistic is that autoimmunity has quadrupled over since the 80s, and it affects women 75% more than men. And so a lot of these are these underlying, low-lying autoimmune style conditions that may not show up like raging on blood work, right? It might just be, oh, I have brain fog, I have fatigue, I have headaches, my period's acting wonky, or I'm having fertility challenges, I've had a bunch of miscarriages, I have joint pain, I have digestive issues, I have eczema, I have psoriasis. And so then same thing, I still come back to these core like foundational pillars, if you will, and restore all of that, or work on restoring. It's a spectrum, right? It's not black or white, same thing as our thoughts. And it's healing versus curing. I think that's a very important thing to drive home to everyone listening. And that healing takes place on a spectrum. And slowly, as you really create that sense of safety and homeostasis in the body, and improve nutrient absorption and world absorption, right? Like almost like establishing healthy boundaries, I think is a really good way to picture that. You see the inflammation go down, and you see the immune system start to regulate itself, just as the nervous system regulates itself. And then I feel like it shifts.
I think that's so important when you talk about this. It is a holistic approach.
Yeah.
And I always think of a wheel and the spokes on the wheel. There's never one spoke, right? That would be a very uneven wheel that would break down. And so there are many spokes on the wheel that we have to work on to get balanced, and, you know, working on one thing at a time, your next right step, or a few things at the same time. I like what you said about gut and certainly digestion. I always say, I can't heal your hormones if I don't fix your gut. I mean, I can absolutely not heal your hormones if I can't fix your gut. So I always say it takes more than hormones to fix your hormones. That's for sure. And the other thing about the concept of digestion, oftentimes, I mean, I've practiced OBGYN, and, you know, between med school residency and everything, I think I ate all my meals in like 10 minutes, you know what I mean, or on the go. And even now there's that habit to be tempted to eat while working. But taking that pause, so that habit for me is certainly taking a pause and prayer before a meal, saying a blessing, remembering to connect with those at my table, and toast, cheer, salute before ever picking up the fork and putting it to my mouth. And I think that's that piece of resetting your digestion, resetting your energetic space, and also incorporating grace and gratitude into your practice. How big of that is it? Do you feel
it's huge?
Is
consciousness, right? I mean, that's kind of how I see it, of like how conscious and present. And same thing with food. Right. And I'm sure it's the work you've done as well, where getting people back to learning how to nourish themselves. Right. And so on that nutritional level, it is about cooking and spending more time in your kitchen and making meals enjoyable and looking at your food. Like I try to do that too. Of like, I don't look at my food as like, calories or things of that nature. It's more like nourishment and enjoyment and excitement, and how am I going to feel during it, how will it feel after, and making those choices. And of course we all can be rushed, and like I did have my lunch at my desk, but I wasn't on or doing emails, but still, even the consciousness with which creating that lunch, I think that's so important, to just come back of looking at food as a part of our medicine, as a part of our healing, which it really is the cornerstone. And then bringing, community and connection to that. I coach with women all the time. And I mean, twice yesterday in my coaching calls, it was overwhelmed by the diet and by the changes I need them to make. And instead, then we just kind of worked it through. I was like, okay, tell me the things that you enjoy in your meals right now. Like, so we had a food diary, we go through it. And then they highlight, and I'm like, see, you actually enjoy like 80% of the foods you eat, you actually do enjoy. Now, instead of us putting pressure on ourselves that this is the food I have to eat to heal this condition or to achieve this health goal, instead, look at it as nourishment and have fun with it. How can we have fun with it? Let's get cool recipes. Let's have friends over for dinner. I had another woman who she's stressing because someone's coming into town, and well, where can I go? Because there's no place for me to go to eat. And I was like, there's tons of great restaurants that actually cater to this kind of living. Let's find some. Let's make it exciting. And you're tying that into the nutrition and the digestion piece. And I also think, like, with digesting your world piece as well, because instead of everything being hurried, and just a means to an end, it's something that we can derive pleasure from.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so Aimee,
Yes.
couple of things. I mean, I can definitely dig into this more with you. And when you are taking a client from the state of like working with fertility, especially older women in their 40s, and I know medical terminology has advanced maternal age. It's just a patriarchal coding system. It's so terrible. And I was, having my daughter, Ava Marie, when I was 41, and I was elderly multigravida. That's the the ICD coding. Oh my God, it's so terrible. So anyway, beyond that, so when you're working with a woman in her 40s, right? And again, I think it's important to restore ovarian function at any age to maintain it as long as possible and as healthfully as possible. So what are some of the, like, if you were to say, okay, if you want to get pregnant, you're waiting to get pregnant in your 40s, you should know and do these three things.
Should know and do these three things. Waiting to get nourish your body, understand the best diet that works for your body, right? So understanding that fertility is an extension of health. So really tuning into that I want as few health kinks in your system as possible. So I think that's the nourishment piece. I would then also say the rest piece, sleeping. So many people don't get to bed until after 11 o'clock. You need to get to bed before 11 p.m. and sleep 7 to 8 hours. And the joy piece, right? Joy is so, vitamin J, as my one teacher says, it's so important. And so I think that would be the pillar to me. It would be like really healthy, solid nutrition that feels good for your body, where you're nourishing yourself. Too many women eat too little, right? That doesn't set the stage. Fertility is a state of abundance, right? But the body wants to have enough to give away. And so you want to think about that. We're really nourishing ourselves. We're giving ourselves a good amount of rest. And then the joy piece. And somewhere in that joy piece, maybe there's movement. I think those are like the real foundation there.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because like with joy, I say vitamin O, oxytocin or orgasm, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. I love it.
So in your book, and your action plan, it says, so I'm looking at body belief, how to heal autoimmune diseases, radically shift your health, and learn to love your body more. You write in here on that kindness heals. And I love that, because I love scientists bringing this into, our awareness. So you write, science shows that being kind to others in the form of a gift or a compliment or a charitable contribution increases health benefits in those with chronic illnesses. That is oxytocin, baby, right?
That's it. That's it. And it's community, right? I mean, there's all this longevity science out there now, and I'm sure you, as I've read like I'm looking up from my bookshelf, like all of them are these longevity books. And of course I try to apply it to helping my women even in their late 40s conceive, which, we're up to 48 natural conception, 48 years old with natural conception with their own eggs. So it's doable, girls. But if that's what you want. A huge piece to the longevity factor is community and feeling of like service. Even more so, I think Kara Fitzgerald in her book, Younger You, talks about more so than like, and not that I'm saying to go out and have alcohol every single day, but she's saying like drinking doesn't impact your body as negatively as lack of community does.
I agree completely.
I find that's like profound for me to think about that, like being a part of a community, feeling like you're lending a hand, like you're sharing. And I think that what comes with that is you feel seen and you feel heard. And ultimately that's so healing to that, nasty bitch on your shoulder, as you said.
And it's safety too, Aimee. It's a sense of safety. You've got each other's back.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. I'm in a 3-generation household, if you hear the baby in the background, but that is like the best thing, that is the best anti-aging hormone, medicine that I've ever received. And it's just having that 3-generation, we have each other's back too. We can rely on each other. We're not alone. And I encourage everyone. In my world, we have the Girlfriend Doctor community, which is a beautiful place. We get on at least twice a month live in video and connect with each other and address celebrate together, address concerns together. And it's a beautiful place to be. So I want to just give you my rapid fire questions. It is that time for rapid fire questions. And the Girlfriend Doctor brand is built on 4 pillars. That is nourish, shine, awaken, and embrace. Those 4 pillars are just key to what I say, embody the optimum life. So with nourish, what is your favorite food? What's a food that you couldn't live without?
Bone broth.
I love that. It's so good. It's so restoring. Okay. And secondly, on shine, what is because you have your own skincare products, and they're beautiful products. What is your favorite skincare product? If you were to choose, this is the must-have one.
My rejuvenating facial oil. I can't live without it. And no one in my life can. It's the best.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to try that one.
Yes. I'll send you a package. I'll send you a gift box.
That's at aimeeraupp.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys, AIMEERAUPP.com. And the links will be in the show notes. All right. The third is awakening. What's a book sitting at your bedside right now?
Well, at my bedside, nothing. I don't read at night, but over in my office. So I did just read Younger You, which I just mentioned.
By Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, a good friend.
So I'd say that one. That's the most recent one. I'm looking around. Do I have any other books lying around? I am also reading The Paris Apartment. I like to read both. My husband really encourages me to read as much fiction as possible.
Oh my gosh, I love it too. And it was the time I hardly ever read. I read The Paris Library. I'll have to read The Paris Apartment.
Yeah,
Paris Library, fantastic.
Really? So I'll write that down.
Yeah.
So I try to not always, I mean, I'm sure it's you too. I love my work and I can get lost in it, but I also need to, it feeds my creative juices to go and just read a juicy novel.
All right. And so embrace is about intimacy and connection. Sometimes I ask, what's your favorite sex position? So feel free to share that one. But I also want to know, because you've maintained a busy work schedule and a great marriage, what is your secret there? What is advice or what is something that you have done personally or as a couple to maintain connection?
I think presence, we both work from home, and when our workday is over and our child is home, it's like that's everything stays in our offices, right? And we do always have this, my son came up with it, but we do it every night at the dinner table. How many steps forward and how many steps back did you take today? And so that's our way of like sharing and being really present and aware. And ever since COVID, I just made a commitment that my workday ends when my son gets home from school, when he gets off the bus. And that's been, it's been it makes me like emotional to think about it. It's been transformational for myself and my family, because why else am I doing all this if not to, reap the rewards of this beautiful family that I built? And it's also practicing what I preach. It is creating that sense of community and that sense of safety. So yeah.
Oh, I love that, Aimee. Yeah, thank you. I think that's a good reminder of all of us, because we love what we do and we can end up doing it 24/7. At least I can, once a workaholic. And I always say I'm being a reforming or workaholic, but that is a really good reminder. And I think that's where that presence, again, that key to be present, and the, being present is the greatest present you can give to someone too. So thank you for being present with me today. Thank you for being gifting and so gracious with our audience and giving your knowledge and information and writing your books. You guys check out aimeeraupp.com. The link will be in the show notes. Body Belief and the Egg Quality Diet. Beautiful works.
The blur. No, thank you. Thank
so
you so
beautiful,
much.
Beautiful work. And as always, please let me know your comments and your questions. I always love to hear your responses and your interactions. Thank you again, Aimee, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
That was a really profound interview, and just really recognizing how our thoughts, our beliefs affect our body, our immune system, our fertility, and our longevity. And it's so true. I think, just to summarize a couple things that I really take home with, or is this kind of saying that, the peace, pace, presence, peace, pace, presence. So check in with ourselves. Are we at peace? Are we in fear? What's happening? And what's our pace? Are we rushing? Have we rushed too much today? Are we not rested? And the third is present. Are we really being present? Everything that happened in the past, everything that could happen in the future, we've removed those things from our presence, from our mind. We can really stay focused and present, and that is healing. And then the concept of gratitude, kindness, giving, and contributing into other people's lives, because we're not alone. We create safety for them, creating safety for us is powerful. I think some of the things that we talked about, where the saying, some of the beliefs that we've had for ourselves, and I'm calling this out like a good girlfriend would, that if you are feeling this, I'm too old, there's no way I can get better. That is your own negative self-talk. That is not the reality. That is not the truth. Just think of one person that has been where you are and has made it through, or living life the way you want to be living life, and focus on that. Let go of the limiting beliefs, because my friend from the head of NASA always says, the sky is not the limit. The sky is not the limit. So I leave that with you today on the Girlfriend Doctor Show. I thank you for being here. A big part of longevity is eating right. So we just did another keto-green 16 challenge in our keto-green community group. So get the keto-green 16 kit and join us in our next challenge, which was starting first of the year, you guys. So excited to be leading that on. And any questions, you can connect with me on social media. You can comment, reply to any of our emails, and let me know what's going on. And of course, please leave a review. Your 5-star reviews make me smile, and I love reading them. So thank you guys for being part of the Girlfriend Doctor community. Till next time. Sorry, guys. Recording an intro. Do our beliefs have anything to do with our physiology? Do our beliefs really affect us? Can our thoughts create physiologic problems in our body? Can our thoughts create diseases, or can they make us more susceptible? Do they have no relation whatsoever? Well, I think every one of you listening, 'cause you've been in my community, you know that our physiology can affect our behavior, and our behavior can affect our physiology, and our belief affects our behavior, which affects our body. So it is absolutely with great pleasure that I am joined today by an expert in women's health and fertility. I know my postmenopausal clients, menopause, and those of you are like, I'm just finally am at a place where I don't want to worry about being pregnant again, and I don't have to. It's so exciting. And you're talking bringing on a fertility expert. Oh my gosh, let me tell you, there's two things that I know about about our health. Longevity starts in the womb, right? And it doesn't end. Longevity starts in the womb. And the second thing is maintaining healthy ovarian function, healthy, body physiology, ovarian function, adrenal function for as long as we can, right, is a key to longevity. It absolutely is a key to longevity. So I bring to you today Aimee Raupp, who is a women's health and fertility expert and a celebrity acupuncturist. She really combines Eastern and Western medicine. She has a Master's of Science degree in traditional Oriental medicine from the Pacific College of Oriental Medicine and a bachelor's degree in biology from Rutgers University. So she's also created a beauty line, Aimee Raupp Beauty, using clean, handcrafted organic skincare products to be free of endocrine disruptors. So I love that. She's been pretty much on every major media channel. She's been on Goop, The View, My Body Green, and so much more. So I am excited to introduce you to her. She's become a new friend, and here we go.